Okay, I have prepped everything, ready to move on to the next step. The next step, before you get started with the cinnamon rolls, you really want to get your pans prepped. I bought these square, can't really see them very well, these square, just little cake pans. You can do round, you can do square. To me, it doesn't really matter. They'll probably come out square in this just because it's a square, but it doesn't matter. They're going to taste just fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my pan, it's just an empty pan, and I'm going to take some butter that I have already melted, and I am going to just pour a little bit in the bottom of the pan, not too much, but not. We got maybe about a tablespoon in there. We're going to roll it around, tilt it all over the place. Make sure we cover the bottom with the butter. Now that's not only going to coat the pan, that's going to make the cinnamon rolls that much better. Okay, so we're going to set this aside. I've gone ahead and prepped all of the pans. I have prepped 6 of those square pans because this is going to make a lot of cinnamon rolls. Okay, so we have butter. I'm pretty sure that's going to be enough. I went ahead and grabbed my cinnamon. This is cinnamon that I grabbed from my spice rack. Please don't confuse it with cumin because that would just be really gross. And then I also have, I'm going to adjust you guys there. Yeah, I also have just sugar. We keep our sugar in this giant, ugly, well, it's a water pitcher, I think. We've kept it in here for years. We've lost the lid, but that's okay. We use it a lot. And then my flour. You're going to use a lot of flour during this section, and you don't want to keep putting your hands into the flour bowl. Excuse me, my dog is sneezing over there. So I just went ahead and made a bowl of flour, and I keep it off to the side so that when I need it, it's handy, it's there. So I'm going to move these items off to the side. Oh, and I also have my rolling pin. Now, I choose to use a French style rolling pin. I just like it better. It's easier for me to maneuver, it's easier for me to maintain, and I just prefer it. I got this as a gift many years ago from Whetstone Woodenware Company, was where my aunt ordered it from for me, and I have since then given it away as gifts as well. No, I don't work for this company. I'm just going to tell you the things that I use in my kitchen, and you know, any rolling pin is going to work. It's going to be just fine. So you're going to grab a pinch full of flour here, and then you're just going to sprinkle it all over your surface, whatever surface you're choosing to use. Now I kind of do heavy-handed in the center, just because that's where I'm about to put my dough, which is pretty sticky right now. So I went ahead and pulled some dough out, about half of what was in the pan. The rest is still sitting in the pan. And like I said, this is pretty sticky right here. Okay, so we have our dough sitting out on the counter, and I'm going to go ahead and put flour on top of my dough, because as I roll, it's going to try and stick to that dough. You can stick your hand on there and find some sticky surfaces. Like I said, don't be afraid of flour. Flour is your friend, and this dough is moist enough that you're not going to dry it out by using more flour than is necessary. I promise everything is going to be just fine. A lot of people have issues with flour. Now, I'm going to go ahead and flip that over and make sure that the other side's pretty well coated in flour as well. Okay, it should be because it pulled it up from the countertop. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and flour my rolling pin just a little bit, just because I can, and I'm about to do. Okay, so I start in the middle of the dough. You can tell that there's half here, half here. I'm putting my rolling pin down in the center, and I'm going to roll outward. Okay, I start again in the center, and I'm going to roll that outward. Okay, now that's going to make you a pretty long piece, which is what we want because we're making a roll. We'll take the long end and we will roll that in together to make your cinnamon rolls. I start in the center going the opposite direction and roll out again. Now what you will find with this dough versus say bread dough or pizza dough or quick doughs, other than most doughs, well, the glutens in this dough don't fight you as bad. A lot of times when you're rolling out pizza dough, you'll roll it out and it'll shrink right back down together, and you roll it out and it'll shrink right back down together. But with this dough, it's pretty well behaved. So I like to roll mine out to about 1/4 of an inch, which is it's a pretty good size. It's a pretty good size dough, and the reason is because when you cook them, it's going to turn into this just big, beautiful, almost like a Cinnabon cinnamon roll. Now you can go thicker if you want to go thicker. You can go thinner if you want to go thinner. It's 100% up to you and how you prefer your cinnamon rolls. Some people like skinny dough, and some people don't. So, okay, very fast, very easy to deal with. I kind of like to lift it, just because when we roll it, it's kind of hard to roll with your fingers being all dirty. Oh, this is a dirty job. You're about to get dirty. Dirtier, if you're not already covered in flour. Okay, so now we take the rest of our butter, and I just swirl it around to kind of get the butter portion incorporated with the melted portion. And you pour it on top. You just pour it straight down the center. It's fine. Okay, now, don't be afraid. And don't be a chicken. You're going to use your hands, and you're going to take that butter and just spread it all over your dough until you cover almost every square inch of that dough. This is some goodness right here, guys. Okay, so we have our sugar, we have our butter. We are now ready for our sugar. If you don't mind, I'm going to rinse my hands really fast because you get kind of gross. So now I take my sugar. Now she gives you on her website and her the Pioneer Woman's recipe, she gives you specific amounts of everything to use. I just kind of throw it on there. I'm fly by the seat of my pants kind of cook, and whatever works, I do it. Some people like really sugary cinnamon rolls. Some people like really cinnamony cinnamon rolls. This is 100% up to you. If you wanted to add nutmeg to this mixture at this point, you know, go for it. Pumpkin spice, whatever you want to use. I kind of like mine a little bit more cinnamony than sugary. So I'm going to put a pretty good amount of cinnamon on here. Just try and get that covered up as fast as I possibly can, because I don't want you guys to get bored. I could tell you a joke, but, well, I have a 6-year-old, and most of my jokes are pretty silly. Okay, so we have cinnamon, we have sugar, we have butter, and that's pretty much all you have in a cinnamon roll. If you choose to use raisins, you can add the raisins now, just sprinkle them on top. And then we're going to roll up. Now you're going to start with the long side, the longest side of your cinnamon roll squarish thing here. And you're just going to kind of flop it in on itself. See? And roll it up. Really simple. One of the things that I like most about this recipe is it's not overly sweet. It's really a mild cinnamon roll. Not a lot of sugar in the dough, not a lot of sugar on top. Of course, you can add more if you want to, but I think all in all, it's pretty good. So now I've got a long log, they call it in the culinary world, even though I'm not part of it, is a long log here. Now, you're going to want to try, and I'm not good at this, so bear with me, and kind of pinch this end closed. I do this every time, and it opens up on me every time. So, you know, whatever. It eats the same, I promise. Okay. So we're going through, and you can see I'm pinching all the way to the end, and I just kind of pinch that end closed, even though it doesn't really do me any good. Now, you will maybe see, move you over here a little closer, and you've got all this goo left over here, and cinnamon and sugar and all this stuff. We'll clean most of this up. As we cut, we may have some leakage out of the end of the cinnamon rolls. I scoop that up and I smack it right down on top of the cinnamon rolls after I get it cut. Okay, now we're to one of the actually last parts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a regular old knife, just a little knife, and I cut them about an inch and a half big. Okay, so we're looking at just, and it's okay if it squishes, it's okay if goo comes out, it's okay if it doesn't all look perfect. Let me tell you something. When you get this in your mouth, you're really not going to care what it looks like. Okay, so we have got cinnamon rolls being cut. like I said, about an inch, inch and a half. It really is up to you. If you like them big and tall and fat, then make them big and tall and fat. It's your food. Eat it however you want to eat it. Okay, so we have them cut. Now let's get that prepared pan back down here. And then you just take them. I kind of start in the middle because that's where the biggest ones are. And I'm just going to place it in the pan next to each other. Now, you're going to not want to put them right on top of each other because they're going to expand. You're going to pull them out of the fridge or out of the freezer or wherever, and you're going to let them sit on the countertop and rise again. These are yeast cinnamon rolls, and they will rise again. Kind of like zombie apocalypse, I guess. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I went ahead and got 9 in here, 9 in this pan. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the rest of the cinnamon rolls and however many pans it takes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a foil on top and put the instructions on how to make this, how to bake this in the oven. But before we do that, we're going to make frosting. And what I do is I portion out each of the frostings into individual bags, and I go ahead and lay that on top of the cinnamon rolls and then freeze them like that. So that, oops, they're sliding all over the place. Man, these are good. I can't even believe how good these smell. I wish y'all could smell this. So that when you go ahead and go to cook them, you have your cinnamon rolls, you have your frosting, and you have everything you need in one spot. You just pull them out of the freezer the night before or an hour before you're ready to cook them or whatever. Okay, so we are finally ready to make the frosting. Now, according to the Pioneer Woman, she wants us to use a whole bag of C&H powdered sugar. Actually, she doesn't specify what kind of powdered sugar. She just says a whole bag of powdered sugar. 2 teaspoons of maple maple flavoring. Now, I just use, for this, any generic that you can get from the grocery. And I just, ish it. Doesn't have to be exact, it's just an ish. Now I just finished that bottle. So it wasn't quite 2 teaspoons, but that's okay. It's going to be just as good. Okay, so after we finish with that, we're going to add a ½ cup of milk and a ¼ cup of melted butter. Now here's my melted butter. And then we're going to add a ¼ cup, there's my milk. And then we're going to add a ¼ cup of strong brewed coffee. Now this can be fresh brewed, this can be brewed yesterday, it can be brewed strong, it can be brewed, it can be any kind of coffee you want. So we were finished with that, and then a big pinch of salt. I think that's about all the salt I have in here is a pinch, so we'll just pinch that in there. And then I'm going to put my whisk attachment on. I'm going to turn that on low until it kind of settles down. Now, sometimes it'll poof up on you and sometimes it won't. And it's just going to do its thing. And as soon as it starts to kind of get incorporated, I'll turn it up just a smidge. Then you just pour a ton of this frosting on top of the baked rolls. What I do is I put this mix inside of Ziploc baggies, just sandwich size Ziploc baggies, and then I will lay that baggie down on top of this and put the foil on top of that. Now, what I did was I wrote on the foil, I don't know if you guys can see that, I put on there PW cinnamon rolls, and then I put 415 to 18 minutes. Now I'll write down on here, I forgot to write down on here, remove the frosting packet first. Remove the frosting packet and then bake these 400 degrees 15 to 18 minutes and then just saturate the hot rolls with that frosting, and you will never regret the amount of time that it took us today to do this, because these cinnamon rolls will have your friends and your family and even your enemies coming back for years and years wanting more. So if you have somebody that you don't really care for, don't offer these to them, or they won't ever leave you alone. That's not from me, that's from Pioneer Woman. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you have something that you would like to see me to make, feel free to leave that comment as well. Thanks for sticking with me. Bye.